I am very excited to introduce our next presenter. This is a very good friend of mine, Dave Lysen, who is a cosplay enthusiast, among other things, and has been using 3D printing to help with his cosplay activities. He's going to share a little bit with us about how he has done that. So, Dave, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. And again, my name is Dave Lysen, as Jeremy said. I'm going to be talking about 3D printing for cosplay. From foam to filament is what I've named this because I thought it was cute and clever. Who am I and what are we talking about? I'm a mild-mannered air traffic controller by day and a cosplayer by night. I've been building cosplays since about 2016. Where my nephew came into town and he had a really awesome cosplay, and I had to take him to a convention and I had an off-the-shelf costume and it just wasn't going to work. So with working with Worbla and EVA foam and now 3D prints, I was able to create a pretty cool Lord Raiden costume from Mortal Kombat, and that was my first one. What is cosplay? Cosplay is a combination of the words costume and play, which then creates a performance art. The participant or cosplayer wears a costume and accessories to represent a specific character. Now, the great thing about cosplay is you can literally be whoever you want. You can take somebody that already exists, whether it's a Star Wars character, which is my favorite because I love Star Wars, Marvel characters, if it's in a comic or anything else, or what a lot of people do is they create their own by mashing up, say, Super Mario Brothers in like steampunk, or they want to see how a character would live as a Mandalorian. So there's a lot of princess Mandalorians now, like Snow White as a Mandalorian. It's really cool. If you have about 12 minutes to kill, Adam Savage has a great TED Talk called My Love Letter to Cosplay, and I would highly recommend it. Some of the common materials that are used in cosplay are EVA foam, which comes in different sizes and densities. It's fairly inexpensive, and you can get it at any of your big box stores. If you go and take a look at the flooring that you buy, just the diamond foam flooring, that's what EVA foam is. Worbla and Sintra are both thermoplastics, which are a little more expensive. You've got all your filaments, PLA, PETG, ABS, and beyond. Fillers, primers, and paints, which can range from Bondo, that they use on cars, is a good way to help get rid of print lines. Primers you can get from just about anywhere, and paint's the same thing. Everything ranging from craft paints you get at the local hobby shop to screen accurate paints that'll cost you hundreds of dollars. It all depends on what your budget is and what you're trying to accomplish. And sandpaper, so much sandpaper. What is the process? First, you got to pick your cosplay. Who do you want to be? Once you figure that out, you get your reference material. Head online, take a look at videos, movies, pictures, whatever you can find that will help you get a will help you visualize what you're trying to accomplish. You can find patterns, hopefully, or you have to make them. If you're using 3D printing files and you can find them and just manipulate them to your will, that's great. Choose your material depending on the rigidity, how easy it is to work with, and what you're comfortable with. You become MacGyver and you figure out how to make amazing things out of regular household items. The thing about cosplay is there's not readily available Star Wars weapons out that you can just run and get, really, unless you're modding a Nerf gun. So you end up figuring out creative ways to create things, which, you know, becomes a lot of fun. There's going to be frustration and tears. I know that from experience. You're going to head out to the YouTubes and you're going to watch some videos. If you don't know how to do something, there's a bunch of cosplayers out there that are posting videos for any level. If you've never created anything, they'll tell you exactly what you need and they'll walk you through step by step. It's a really amazing thing to do. Whether you want to create a costume or a cosplayer, you're creating it for somebody else, like trying to get your kids involved, which I've been trying to do forever. There's excitement around it. Once you put on that cosplay and the first time you interact with somebody as that character and they get it and they give you that validation, all the stuff that came along with it is just so worth it. And then by then you're going to be hooked and you're just going to do it all over again. Pattern making is not fun, but however, it's something that you have to do for cosplay to help you design something from nothing. So for armor or more fitted cosplays, a lot of times you will use the following materials if none exist, if no patterns exist, and it's plastic wrap, duct tape, and markers. What I'm showing you in this series of fantastic photos of myself is I was doing a helmet, which meant I had to have somebody with me that I trusted because they were going to have scissors by my face. So I wrapped my head in saran wrap, leaving enough room so I could breathe. Then there was the duct tape, and we cut it off. And I realized that it wasn't the size that I needed for my K2 helmet, which is a build that I'm going to talk about later on. So I ended up using a foam head and then wrapped it in bubble wrap and used a bike helmet to try to get more space. So foam versus 3D printed helmets. On the left is my K2 helmet that started out as 10 pieces of foam that I then had to contact cement together and layer upon layer through fillers and primers, painting, and then more foam is how I got the look that I wanted. With the 3D printed helmet on the right, which is a Jedi Temple Guard helmet, it was already pre-made. I downloaded it off Thingiverse, and with the help of Jeremy, who 3D scanned my head, we were able to see if the helmet itself was going to fit. So before I ever printed anything, I was able to know what had to be done to make this helmet fit my face particularly. So we did it, I think, at 110%, and we printed it, and as you can see, it fits fantastic. And the level of detail that you can get coming straight off the printer is, it's wearable from the jump. Now, you can choose to do some finishing work on it, some filling, and get the print lines to go away. Or you can wear it as is. The other great thing about 3D printing is you don't have to sit there the entire time it's printing. So if it's a 4 or 5 day print, you can go work on other elements of your costume. Whereas with the foam, I was hands-on for most of the time. Where I got into the 3D printing world was with my K2 build. And that's where Jeremy Simon helped me a whole lot. In 2018, it was announced that Star Wars Celebration 2019 was going to be held in Chicago. Huge news for me. I am a gigantic Star Wars fan. I love conventions. I wanted to figure out what to do where I could stand out from the crowd. So I decided on K2SO from Rogue One of my favorite Star Wars movies. And in all the conventions I had been to, I had never found another K2 cosplayer. There were people that had built droids and they manipulated them through puppetry. But as far as somebody actually physically in a suit, I had not found it before. So I sat down, I brainstormed, I tried to figure out how I was going to make K2 a reality. First thing I had to do is learn to walk on stilts. I wanted to be as screen accurate as possible, which meant I had to be over 7 feet tall. I understand I'm sitting down, but understand I'm not 7 feet tall. And I wanted to figure out how to make articulated hands. I didn't just want to use my hands because then the proportions of the droid itself would not be correct. So I had to figure that out, and I had to create armor patterns for the entire droid. If I couldn't get the stilts to work and I couldn't figure out the hands, I knew it was a no-go. So I reached out to Jeremy because I knew he worked with e-NABLE and with the articulating hands, and I knew that they did 3D printed prosthetics. So I reached out, I was like, hey, I have this idea and I'm hoping you can help. And we sat down and we talked about it, and he got excited about it, which was great, because it's great to have just infectious excitement throughout a team. And he reached out to the e-NABLE community and he was like, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. And some other people jumped on board. And what you see here through photos is the design process of K2's hands, which started with a lazy Susan so that I can move along the wrist axis. It was printed and then put together. As you see along the way, to make sure they were long enough, we had to add in aluminum bars. And in the first version of the hands, we used soccer shin guards to try to connect it to my upper arm. The fingers were controlled by using controlled lines like fishing line that then was ran through the wrist and controlled by little leather straps that were then around my fingers. As with anything else, we learned along the way and we figured out that some things worked better than others. There's a picture of me on the stilts with the hands so I could get to see if the sizing and everything was going to fit for what I wanted, and it was amazing. It was great. Then it kind of turned to me and it was like, okay, now I've got to figure out how to create this armor. So using foam and Warbler, I started creating the pieces one by one, and I got to a point where I was happy with where it was going. So this is the end result. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of pieces. It was a lot of time trying to figure out how to walk on stilts. And it was so worth it because I wore the cosplay at C2E2 in 2019 for the first time to test run it before I went to Star Wars Celebration. And the reaction that I had was insane. Like, people stopped and I couldn't move. I had crowds of people taking photos of me. And it was so validating and so amazing. And I wanted to be able to share that experience with everybody that helped and everybody that was part of the team that helped build this cosplay, and then share it with people that wonder, why do I do what I do? You know, you're on stilts for 6 hours, you're sweaty, you're hot, you're sore, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you have given people an experience. They got to meet K2, and that was such a great thing. And with the help of 3D printing and Jeremy and a team of individuals, I was able to get there. And with everything, on the left is the first version of the hands that we used, and on the right is what the current version is. Things that we changed, we took out the Lazy Susan mechanism because we realized that I didn't need the wrist movement as much. And we added in a work glove that everything's attached to, because we realized that I had to keep my fingers at a little bit of tension in the lines so that they wouldn't slip off my fingers. And that's what I got. You can find me on Instagram at Unbound Geekdom. Email me at unboundgeekdom@gmail.com if you got questions, and I'll be hanging out later on for the Q&A. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation.
Well, I know I sure did, Dave. Thanks so much. And that was just such a fun project to work with you on. So thanks for helping me to see yet another dimension of 3D printing and how much fun you can have with it.
Thank you, Jeremy.